Hello. Hello and welcome to this year's Remembrance Day celebrations. Bonjour et bienvenue à la célébration du jour du souvenir. My name is Ivana Rivera-Sartiaga, your co-MC for the ceremony, and I am the president of the Student Union of John Abbott College, also known as JAC. Mon nom est Ivana Rivera-Sartiaga, une de vos maîtres de cérémonie, et je suis la présidente de l'association des étudiants du Cégep John Abbott.
Hello, my name is Gracie Divo, your other co-MC for the ceremony and the Vice President Academic of the Student Union of John Abbott College. Je m'appelle Gracie Divo, une de vos maîtres de cérémonie et présentement la Vice Presidente de l'Association étudiante du Cégep John Abbott.
Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone to please turn off your phones and remain silent during the ceremony. Avant de commencer, nous aimerions demander à tout le monde d'éteindre vos cellulaires et de garder le silence durant la cérémonie. I would like to welcome a former member of the Royal Montreal Regiment and veteran of 21 years in the United States Army, Sergeant First Class Ray Deere, who will read our land acknowledgement. As is tradition for our First Nation guests, Mr. Deere will also acknowledge their invitation to the ceremony. J'aimerais accueillir un ancien membre du Régiment Royal de Montréal et vétéran de l'Armée des États-Unis, Ray Deere, qui nous lira la reconnaissance des terres en tant que personne autochtone.
Sego, Sewaguego. Bonjour à tous. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the school for the invitation to come here. And it's customary for us to do an honor song. Not an honor for me, an honor that you invited me to come here. So I'm honoring the invitation. So with that, I'll do a customary honor song. Ayo yo today. Ayo yo today. Ayo yo today. Ayo. As we know, we've been learning about land acknowledgement. Our people have always known, but we're sharing it with you. At John Abbott College, we acknowledge that we are on unceded indigenous lands of the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka Mohawks. We are grateful for this opportunity to gather here. And we thank the many generations of people who have taken care of this land and these waters. JAC, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for diverse First Nations. Thus, we recognize, deeply appreciate the historic and ongoing Indigenous connections to the presence on these lands and waters. We also recognize the contributions of the Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous people, having made in shaping and strengthening our communities. Together, as a diverse community, college community, we commit to the building a sincere relationship with Indigenous people based on respect, dignity, trust, and cooperation in the process of advancing truth and reconciliation. Merci, Nyawa. Thank you.
Goa, thank you, First Class Sergeant Deere. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem by our own John Abbott student, Nora Abad. Veuillez vous lever sous la performance de notre hymne national par Nora Abad. Please welcome Master Warrant Rick Cartmel, who was an officer in the Black Watch and Combat Engineers. He will read why we are gathered here today.
Veuillez accueillir Master Warrant Rick Cartmel, qui était un officier dans le Black Watch et dans les ingénieurs combattants. Il va lire pourquoi nous sommes réunis aujourd'hui.
If you would allow me, I'd like to defer from my script. I want you to look around and see what you see here today. You see people gathered in peace, no worries, no fears. When you walk into the stores, you see the shelves filled with food. You see well-kept properties. Now close your eyes for a second and think of other places where you have bombed out buildings, not enough food, and people walking around with fully automatic weapons, and people living in fear. Now open up your eyes and think countries like Yemen, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria, Iran, and many other countries, that this would not be possible whatsoever. And the only reason that we can be here today is because of the people that have defended this country and the values which we stand on. So why are we gathered here today for Remembrance Day? It was on the 11th hour of the 11th day and the 11th month in 1918 that the guns were silenced. Armistice was declared. Peace was established, and after 66,573 Canadians alone had perished during the so-called Great War. This war from August 1914 to November 1918 was, of course, the war to end all wars. But that is not to be, for there are no wars to end all wars. So September 1939, Canada once again finds herself at war in World War II, stopping a Nazi tyrant called Hitler and his thugs. Canada sent off her young men and women for 5 years or more from their homeland, not seeing their loved ones, families and friends for this long period, and not knowing, in fact, they would ever see them again. By the time the Second World War ends in May 1945, 44,927 young Canadians are killed, and most of them in the prime of their lives. So one asks, why do we go to war? Why does this happen again and again? Well, freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of movement, and all other freedoms are just not free. You could say we pay for our freedom by using young men and women's lives to do so. In 1934, a general stated, any soldier worth his salt should be anti-war, and still there are things worth fighting for. In fact, no one hates war more than a soldier. We as Canadians, since the Second World War, have been involved in the Korean War, where 516 were killed, peacekeeping operations where 115 were killed, and 780 killed on UN NATO duty as well. Now, besides the dead, we should also, of course, not think of all those who came home and suffered for years and are still trying to cope with their situations, emotions, and dreams. We are here today to remember and not forget what our fellow Canadians and Allied soldiers have done for us, so we can live in this wonderful city, province, country, safe and sound due to the unselfish effort of our armed forces. These personnel who continue today to stand on guard for us 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day. Let us never forget their sacrifices. Thank you.
Thank you, et merci, Master Warren Carmel. To all the veterans who are present with us today, to all the lives that were forever changed, we would like to say thank you. Thank you for supporting this country and defending those values with courage. To everyone who is attending the ceremony today, it is our turn to support veterans who are still here and to never forget those who have left us.
À tous les vétérans qui sont présents avec nous aujourd'hui et à toutes les vies qui ont été changées à jamais, nous aimerions vous remercier. À tous ceux qui sont dans la cérémonie, c'est maintenant à notre tour de soutenir les vétérans qui sont encore présents et de ne jamais oublier leur contribution.
Please welcome Nicholas Dolmat, a former John Abbott and McGill University student and junior officer in the Royal Canadian Naval Reserve. Nicholas will recite a poem he wrote for a Remembrance Day ceremony in high school. Lieutenant Nicholas Dolmat from Her Majesty's Canadian ship Donnacona will read a poem entitled Gratitude.
Maintenant, j'aimerais inviter Nicolas Dolmat, un ancien élève de John Abbott et l'Université McGill, et un officier subalterne de la réserve navale de la Marine royale canadienne, sera réciter un poème qu'il a écrit pour une cérémonie du jour de souvenir dans l'école secondaire. Lieutenant de vaisseau Nicolas Dolmat du navire canadien de Sa Majesté Donnacona va lire un poème intitulé Gratitude.
Gratitude. These veterans before us have done too much to be forgotten, continuing onwards with strength when so many had fallen. Their names engraved in our hearts, their heroics engraved in our minds, standing above all of mankind. Your sacrifices are far beyond any eye can imagine, the ones who answered the call to action. Unafraid when the world turned dark, you pushed onwards and left your mark. It truly does fill me with wonder to imagine storming Normandy under hail and thunder, crossing turbulent seas, feeling the ice-cold breeze, flying over hostile skies to ensure the freedom of our lives. We thank you for all you have done, and may we hope history never repeats itself and that your sacrifices will not be in vain, that no one ever again feel the wrath of a dictator and his chain. Your deeds were great and courageous, and for that we are very gracious, bringing along a new dawn, allowing us to forgive and continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Merci, Nicolas. I now call upon Dr. Anya Gateman, Dean of the Faculty of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences of McGill University, McDonald Campus, to say a few words. J'invite maintenant Dr. Anya Gateman, directrice de la Faculté en Agriculture et Environnement des Sciences à McGill, à dire quelques mots.
On behalf of McGill University and McDonald Campus, I thank John Abbott College for organizing this Remembrance Day ceremony. Au nom de l'Université McGill, je remercie au Collège John Abbott d'avoir organisé cette cérémonie. Thank you for coming, veterans. Thank you, members of this campus, and in particular, thank you to the youth among you for being here. I have 2 children of your age. And a few years back, I took them to the War Museum in Ottawa. Le Musée canadien de la guerre est une institution que tout Canadien devrait visiter au moins une fois dans leur vie. The museum's displays educate on how the wars of the First Peoples, the French and the British, shaped Canada and Canadians. It also explains how Canadians were deployed to participate in more recent wars in faraway countries. The museum illustrates the many facets of war. In particular, for the wars that happened a long, long time ago, it is easy to associate them with glory and heroism. Think, for example, of the Trojan Wars or the Gallic Wars. War is also associated with rapid development of technology. Our understanding of nuclear power or the development of sophisticated aircraft were accelerated by the needs of war. However, while glory and technology are certainly aspects worth being aware of, much more important is what we just heard, the human aspect. Wars really mean misery. They mean suffering. They often are venues of desperate courage and of sacrifice. For those of us who are in the fortunate situation to have never lived war on their own soil and have never been deployed to a war zone, it is quite difficult to truly realize how war affects those who live through it and who, if they survive, experience the consequences for the rest of their lives. Be it through physical harm, death of a family member, trauma, or through loss of property, displacement, life in refugee camps. Realizing what war really means for each individual touched by it and how it marks them for the rest of their lives is one of the goals of the museums, such as the one in Ottawa. Recognizing and honoring the immense sacrifice brought by so many in the context of war is the purpose of an event such as the one that we have assembled for here today. For those of us who only know war through newspapers or television, it is important to realize that the significance of war has to become tangible to us. It does so for me when I realize how many of our own students lost their lives in world wars. Look at the oak trees around this field. You still see the yellow leaves. 90 years ago, in 1931, 44 trees were planted here to honor the 34 MacDonald College students who died during World War I. That is one student out of 10 who participated in that war. 357 MacDonald students participated in World War I. For those of us who haven't experienced war firsthand, the significance also becomes tangible when we meet those who have and who have survived. Those who have risked their lives for us and for others in the name of freedom in order to protect those who needed protection. We are here to honor those who made the biggest sacrifice, who lost their lives, and to honor those who returned home and whose lives were marked by war forever. Thank you, veterans, for making your way out here today. Merci d'être venu. And thank you, the next generation, the youth among you, for joining us today, for your willingness to learn about yesterday's wars and today's, as this gives hope for a peaceful future, lest we forget.
Thank you, Dr. Gateman. I would now like to introduce the principal of McDonald High School, Kathleen O'Reilly, to say a few words. J'aimerais maintenant inviter Kathleen O'Reilly, directrice de l'école secondaire McDonald, à dire quelques mots.
Bonjour tout le monde. There is never enough words to say how grateful and thankful we are for everything you have done for us. On behalf of McDonald High School et la commission scolaire Lester B. Pearson, nous vous remercions pour tout. Merci.
Thank you, Principal O'Reilly. Merci beaucoup, Madame O'Reilly.
I would like to introduce Jada Scott Loiseau from McDonald High School to read a poem called Nameless, written by Kristen Radke, a former McDonald campus student. J'aimerais maintenant accueillir Jada Scott Loiseau de l'école secondaire McDonald pour lire le poème Son nom, écrit par Kristen Radke, une ancienne étudiante de l'école secondaire McDonald.
The trees alone bear witness, as generations without end file past your white cross unnamed, ne'er pausing once to think upon the man you once were. Though you were but a boy, cut down in a field of mines and wires, where no boy should live, lest die. 1916 now marks your cross, as it does so many others. Faces just as nameless walk by you without seeing that the poppies fixed to their hearts are muted by their search for named crosses with great stories of glory so exalted. To them your cross is but a marker on their unseeing search, your name all but forgotten beside great heroes of your time. Did you leave a sweetheart in your wake? To her are you forever young? Do you now live forever, encased in a photograph, immortalized in spirit, in legend and family lore? I pray your memory lives on in hearts of those whom you held dear. Equal are you in valor and in courage to our dear heroes of old. The side you took has little meaning, for your heart was pure and young. A boy you lived, a man you died. I pledge to remember you a hero. Though I cannot give you name nor face, I swear not to forget you. For peace you fought and died. Rest now into the new coming, for rest you well deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jada. I would now like to introduce, for the reading of In Flanders Field, Lieutenant Ted Duckworth, who served as a peacekeeper under NATO in Bosnia in 1999. He served 15 years in the Royal Canadian Hussars and Cadet Instructor Cadre. For the reading of Au Champ d'Honneur, I would like to invite Petty Officer 2nd Class Jean Gallagher, who served on warships and submarines for 27 years. did a tour during the Gulf War in 1990 to 1991 and a tour in former Yugoslavia in 1993.
J'aimerais introduire le lieutenant Ted Duckworth qui ira dans le domaine des Flandres, ainsi que Jean Gallagher pour la lecture du texte au champ d'honneur.
Au champ d'honneur, les coquelicots sont parsemés l'eau en l'eau. Auprès des croix et dans l'espace, les alouettes devenues lasses mêlent leur chant au sifflement des oubliés. Nous sommes morts, nous qui changions la veille encore à nos parents, à nos amis, à nos amours. C'est nous qui reposons ici au champ d'honneur. À vous, jeunes désabusés, à vous d'apporter l'oriflamme et de garder au fond de l'âme le goût de vie en liberté. Acceptez le défi, sinon les coquelicots se faneront au champ d'honneur.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies glow in Flanders fields.
Following the reading of the Act of Remembrance, the bugler will play the last post, then the piper will play Lament. This will be followed by a moment of silence until the bugler plays Reveille.
Après l'acte du souvenir, le clairon jouera Las Post et le joueur de commémuse jouera l'amant, qui sera suivi par un moment de silence, jusqu'au moment où le joueur de commémuse jouera réveil.
Please rise for the reading of the Act of Remembrance. This will be read in English by Mr. Leonard Como, a veteran of World War II who served as a private in the Marines crew and navigation unit from 1939 to 1945. He was stationed in Italy where he was injured and later received the Italian Star. Following this, Master Corporal JAC will read the Act of Remembrance in French. He served as a peacekeeper under the UN in Bosnia in 1993 and for 16 years as a crewman with the Royal Canadian Hussars.
Veuillez vous lever pour la lecture en anglais de l'acte du souvenir par M. Léonard Como, un vétéran de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale. Nous aimerions également inviter M. Jacques Rio à lire l'acte du souvenir en français. Il a servi comme casque bleu sur l'Uni en Bosnie en 1993 et pendant 16 ans comme membre d'équipage avec les Hussards royaux canadiens.
Thank you for all your listening into this little factual. They shall grow, not old, as we will, and are left to grow old. That's quite a difference. We're here, yet we find out. They shall not bury dead, nor the year as condemned. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Response, please. We will remember them always. Thank you.
You know, n'ayons pas, comme nous, qui est l'heure en haut sur leur queue. Il connaît jamais de l'orage ni le poids des années. Quand il vient de l'heure de crépitus et de l'heure, nous souvenir d'eux. Nous souvenir d'eux.
please be seated. I would like to welcome the Academic Dean of John Abbott College, Gordon Brown, to say a few words. J'aimerais inviter le directeur général de Cégep, John Abbott, Monsieur Gordon Brown, à dire quelques mots.
On behalf of all of us, I would first like to offer a heartfelt thank you to the veterans who have joined us here today. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour honorer ces braves Canadiennes et Canadiens qui nous permettent de vivre dans un pays de liberté et de paix. À nos vétérans qui sont ici pour les représenter, du fond de notre cœur, nous vous disons merci. To the students and employees from St. Patrick's, Edgewater, Dorset, and Birchwood Elementary Schools, McDonald High School, John Abbott College, and McDonald Campus of McGill University, to our many distinguished guests, and to all members of our community. Thank you for gathering here today to remember our brave Canadians. 20 years ago today, on November 11th, 20 years ago in November, a man called Terry Kelly was in a store in Halifax, Nova Scotia. At 11 a.m., a voice came on the PA system in the store announcing a moment of silence for Remembrance Day. One loud man insisted that the cashier process his purchases. His daughter pleaded, "Daddy, you were supposed to be quiet." Mr. Kelly was very disturbed by this man's behavior, but instead of arguing with him, Mr. Kelly wrote the song "A Pittance of Time." In a few minutes, you will hear John Abbott's Director General, John Halpin, sing "A Pittance of Time." During that song, some of our young students will come forward and plant a small Canadian flag around our memorial. Let's reflect on the words of the song and on over 1.5 million Canadians who have been called to serve in times of war, and of the almost 120,000 Canadians who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We remember today to thank those brave Canadians for their sacrifice and help to allow us to live peacefully in Canada. On célèbre la journée du souvenir pour nous assurer que nos braves Canadiennes et Canadiens ne sont pas morts en vain, pour éviter de répéter les erreurs du passé et pour nous aider à apprécier et protéger la paix fragile que nous avons le privilège de vivre au Canada. À nos vétérans, à nos étudiantes et étudiants, et à vous tous, merci d'avoir pris le temps d'être ici aujourd'hui et de dire « Je me souviens ». Thank you. Let us remember.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Merci, Monsieur Brown. To conclude, on behalf of the students of Edgewater, St. Pat's, Dorset, and Birchwood Elementary Schools, McDonald High School, and John Abbott College, we would like to thank you, the veterans young and old, and your comrades for the sacrifices you've made to this country, and to all of the younger present-day soldiers who continue to serve and protect this country. Let us not only have this Remembrance Day ceremony for a few hours of the year, let us carry on with the same perseverance, determination, and values that the veterans had fighting for this country and apply it to our everyday lives.
Pour conclure, de la part des étudiants de Edgewater, St. Pat's, Dorset, Birchwood, l'école McDonald et Cégep John Abbott, nous aimerions vous remercier les vétérans, vieux et jeunes, ainsi que vos camarades pour tous les sacrifices que vous avez faits pour ce pays. Continuons avec cette persévérance, détermination et valeur que les vétérans ont eue en combattant et appliquons-les dans nos vies quotidiennes. Gracie and I are eternally grateful for this opportunity to be able to stand in front of you, our honored guest, and truly show our thanks for all you've done and are continuing to do. We would also like to thank everyone else for joining us for this special ceremony. Now the song Pittance of Time will be played in person by the Director General of John Abbott College, John Halpin. Maintenant, la chanson Pittance of Time va être jouée en personne par le Directeur Général de John Abbott College, Monsieur John Halpin.
Guitar is a little bit cold, I'll tune it.
They fought and they died for their homeland. They fought and some died, now it's our land. Look at his little child, there's no fear in his eyes. Could he not show respect for other dads who have died? Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest, may we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time. God forgive me for wanting to strike him. Give me strength so as not to be like him. My heart pounds in my breast, fingers pressed to my lips. My throat wants to fall out, my tongue barely resists. But 2 minutes I will bide, it's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest, may we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time. Read the letters and poems of heroes at home. They have casualties, battles, and fears of their own. There's a price to be paid if you go, if you stay. Freedom's fought for and won in numerous ways. Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls all over. May we never forget our young become vets at the end of the line. It's a pittance of time. It takes courage to fight in your own war. It takes courage to fight someone else's war. Our peacekeepers can tell of their own living hell. They bring hope for a land that hate mongers can't kill. Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who go over. In peacetime our best still don battle dress and lay their lives on the line. It's a pittance of time. In peace may they rest, lest we forget why they died. Take a pittance of time.
Thank you, Mr. Halpin. We now invite everyone to take a Canadian flag at the East Gate and follow our police technology cadets to the Veterans Monument to plant each flag in honor of our fallen veterans. Please feel free to visit our display and military vehicles. Merci, Monsieur Halpin. Nous vous invitons maintenant à planter un drapeau en honneur de nos anciens combattants décédés. Merci à tous d'avoir assisté à cette cérémonie.